Coming up on NTV News at noon, live reports from two crime scenes as authorities investigate a robbery that turned into a chase through two counties. And the head of the EPA is in Nebraska. We'll tell you what he's expected to discuss with our governor. Plus, the Keystone XL pipeline facing yet another hurdle. Good afternoon. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Sarah Kirkley. Now, a man is in custody this noon hour after a police chase that started in Kearney and ended in Grand Island. We have team coverage of this developing story. NTV's Alex Whitney and Jessica Stevenson are standing by on location. We start off with Alex in Grand Island where that chase ended. Alex, what can you tell us? Thanks so much for that information, Alex. Now, as we mentioned, the chase started in Kearney, and that's where we find NTV's Jessica Stevenson. Jessica, what can you tell us? Thank you so much for that, both of you, for your live reports. This is, of course, a developing story. As Jessica mentioned, we'll have much more on this tonight on NTV News First at 5 and throughout the day on Nebraska.tv. Let's turn to weather, and it is a hot one out there, or shaping up to be. Tim Wright joins us now from the Weather Center. Tim, how's it looking? Thanks so much, Tim. The head of the Environmental Protection Agency is in Nebraska today, meeting with top agriculture officials and Governor Pete Ricketts. Scott Pruitt is expected to join members of the Common Sense Nebraska Coalition for a roundtable discussion on the agency and the Waters of the U.S. rule. That starts at 5:30 at the Nebraska Farm Bureau building. We'll bring you reports from that meeting in Lincoln tonight on NTV News. The future of the Keystone XL pipeline facing another hurdle here in Nebraska. A couple who oppose the pipeline going through their farm no longer own part of that land. Art and Helen Tannerkop signed over 1.6 acres of their land to the Ponca Indian tribe. Since the Ponca are a federally recognized tribe, they have special legal status. That land, which is on the proposed pipeline's route, has been used to plant sacred Ponca corn for the last 5 years. As the battle over that controversial pipeline continues here in Nebraska, South Dakota's Supreme Court is siding with TransCanada and dismissing an appeal from the pipeline's opponents there. According to the state Supreme Court, the lower court didn't have the jurisdiction to hear the case. This comes after opponents appealed the decision by regulators to allow the pipeline to cross the state. In yesterday's ruling, the justices said the lower court didn't have the jurisdiction to hear appeals of the Public Utility Commission's decision. If completed, the Keystone XL pipeline will move crude oil from Canada to refineries along the Gulf Coast. A York company says they're expanding to keep pace with growth in the show feed industry. Nutrition Services broke ground on a 30,000 square foot warehouse this week. They say it'll hold feed that maximizes the genetic potential of show animals. The York County Development Corporation's executive director says it's critical to communities like York to retain growing businesses like this. We have an update this noon hour on the $28.1 million ruling in favor of the Beatrice 6. Yesterday, the Gage County Board of Supervisors voted to ask the 8th U.S. Circuit Appeals Court to rehear the county's appeal. Earlier this week, the court upheld the multi-million-dollar ruling against the county. The Beatrice 6 were wrongfully convicted of the 1985 rape and murder of a 68-year-old woman. They were cleared through DNA evidence back in 2008. One of the attorneys representing Gage County says the county could appeal to the U.S. Supreme Court if the circuit court doesn't agree to rehear the appeal. Nebraska farmers got a chance to promote Nebraska's soybeans to Chinese pork producers. Last Friday, farmers had lunch with the visiting pork producers in order to foster trade relationships, they say. The pork producers are on a tour of several states, including Illinois, Iowa, Nebraska, South Dakota, and Minnesota, to meet with pork industry experts and farmers. The tour was coordinated by the United States Soybean Export Council. In international news, we're learning more about how North Koreans are learning about the summit between President Donald Trump and Kim Jong-un. This as Mike Pompeo looks to reassure our Asian allies. Here's more from ABC News. Back here in Nebraska, we're feeling the heat. Tim Wright joins us with a check of the forecast and looking into that weekend, right, Tim?
Yeah, this will be a several-day event.
Also still to come, Father's Day just around the corner. We'll have the details about the big bucks people are spending on their dads. Plus, a year after being shot at a GOP baseball practice, Representative Steve Scalise will be back on the field. Details coming up.
NTV, Central and Western Nebraska's most watched news, with Sarah Kirkley and Tim Wright Weather. This is NTV News at Noon.